My name is Jill Heatley, that's my married name. My single name was Saunders. I was born in Gadsby Street. I'm the youngest of two children, had a brother as well. But the main interest is my grandparents on my father's side, my grandmother in particular. There's a dance studio next to the post office in Attleborough, and I have discovered photographs of when it was the family shop and photographs of my great-grandparents there and my grandparents. My grandmother arrived in Attleborough along with her siblings and her parents, and sometime between 1901 and 1911, and she was a widow with a small child. They came from Northamptonshire, and she met and married David Taylor, who lived at number 6 Marston Lane. He was a railway plate layer, but it seemed in one of the census returns that he was then a dairyman. Sadly, he died within a few months of marriage, and Grandma was pregnant with a little girl. The girl, Julie, was born, but sadly she was not well and didn't live very long. By then, her father was on the census as a dairyman, and then my grandmother met up with John Saunders, who came from Tring in Hertfordshire, we think, on the railways. He was a railway plate layer as well, but he was a fully qualified farm hand, if you like, because where he used to live, he worked for Lord Rothschild on his estate in Hertfordshire as a cowman, they called it, cowhand. So they then married, and he became J. Saunders, as in J. Saunders and Son, dairyman of Attleborough. They had a large milk round. My grandmother had a shop which she did cooked meats. My father used to help her in the shop with the cooked meats. I think they had a coal round as well. But sadly, like all things, as years went by, things didn't work out. My father left the business because he needed to have money in his pocket and get married. And eventually the house was pulled down in Attleborough. But I've always wondered where David Taylor did his farming and whether it was the same place, whether that is actually how my grandmother and grandfather did come about their business. My grandmother was one of 9 siblings, and amongst those siblings she had a sister called May, and May lost her husband during the war, but she had 2 children, and one of her 2 children, they were both girls, one of them married the son of J.C. Smith's in Attleborough. Another sister, I think her name was Edith, but I'm not sure. She married someone called Kendall. I think it was Zebaniah Kendall or someone. And he used to keep another shop in Attleborough. So the family between them had quite a few businesses in the area.
Where was your parents living at the time?
13 the Green.
13 the Green?
Yes.
And what year was that?
Gordon Bennett, 1931. I was born in 1930, but 30 and a half.
When you went to school in the Green?
Here.
The church school?
Yes.
Yeah.
When he got bombed, the vicar called me bird's nesting in the vicarage. Mr. Firefield. We didn't go to school, I don't think, for 9 months, 8 or 9 months.
We went part-time with Park Avenue.
No, we went part-time with Park Avenue. And then they fiddled us into, some of us, in Swinnerton. Where did you go?
I stayed at Park Avenue.
A few of us went to Swinnerton, and I finished in 1940, obviously.
What are your happy memories about the Green? Or what are your bad memories about the Green?
Wonderful holidays, school holidays, 6 months of bliss. Bliss in the fields where sterling metals all around there. Sterling metals will be there probably, all around the Lynch.
And my aunt kept the grocer's shop, which was next to the factory. 13A, I think it was, wasn't it?
Well, I don't know, Margaret.
Yeah, I
no.
think it was 13A, but it was the grocer's shop there. That's where they were farmers between Bramcote and Wolvie, and then my grandfather died, so they had to get something to bring some money in, so they bought the shop on Attleborough Green. And my grandmother used to run it, but she couldn't read or write. And everybody that came in, she used to remember what they'd bought and how much. And her other daughter used to write it down at lunchtime when she came home from work.
What was the shop called?
Right, groceries. It was a grocery shop.
You used to have palm toffee and a big slab. And she had a little toffee hammer to break it. You used to have a penny with the palm toffee. You didn't have television. You were lucky you had a radio, I suppose, in those times.
So we had the radio.
Well, we had a radio. I was just telling Margaret, you used to take the batteries to the chemist on the square to have them charge the accumulators.
Yeah.
My dad was an electrician, so he always, well, before he became an electrician, he used to have a bit of a sideline in Joggler Street, charging the accumulators up, as they used to call them.
Yes, yeah, they had, hadn't they? Yeah.
I also remember that.
Yeah, I was born in Coventry, which was a consequence of my parents moving from Lancashire in Bolton, my father having been in the cotton industry since he started work, and at the end of the war he realised that the cotton industry was in decline, and could see that man-made fibres was the way forward, and applied for a job at Courtaulds in Coventry as a technical manager, which he was lucky to get the position. So he moved to Coventry, lived in a rented house in Alsley Old Road, and I was born there. My sisters then followed, twin sisters in '48, and later in the 50s, he moved to Nuneaton. We moved to Nuneaton because he was appointed to a position at the Courtaulds factory in Marlborough Road, and subsequently became the manager there, when there were in fact 1,000 people working there, which seems astonishing to think of that these days. When I moved here, my life took me to Attleborough School, and I was there from the age of 9. And I used to walk from our house Hillside, which is number 43 Lutterworth Road, now Milverton School, to Attleborough School every day. The house that we lived in had been lived in previously by Joe Lloyd, the owner of Lloyd's Buses in Attleborough Road, and they'd moved to the other side of the town. Prior to Lloyd's living in that house, it had been lived in by Cartwrights, and I can't just remember the exact initials of the Cartwright, but his son lived in the Nook, and it was Cartwright who lived in our house, who was an auctioneer and estate agent in Nuneaton, and he in fact was the auctioneer that sold at the Abbey Hotel in Abbey Street for the princely sum of £3,000, which at that time belonged to Reginald Stanley, and he ran into some financial trouble, which I think was connected with the Wall Street crash. I'm not absolutely sure of that, but I think that was the reason for it, but he had to sell it due to financial pressures. My interests in this area were centred to a large extent on Attleborough Church. My mother had encouraged me to become a choir boy, and I was here 3 times a day on Sunday quite regularly, and also for choir practice, which used to be on a Thursday evening here. We lived opposite the recreation ground on Lutterworth Road, so I was very familiar with steam engines on that track and the warnings that were sounded when it was foggy. They used to put detonators on the track at that time. We also I used to go down to through Calderwell through Calderwell Estate, Marston Lane area, which was quite a new estate in those days, and also along Highfield Road, where the Labour Club was being built at that time. I think it was preceded by a wooden building, but when I arrived, it was being rebuilt, and all the trees on Highfield Road there were just saplings, and now, of course, they're quite significant trees. At the end of Highfield Road, of course, there is the Albion buildings. And at that time, the Albion buildings had an upper story where in earlier times the weaving looms had been worked by people who lived below. But unfortunately, the top floor was knocked off, which has spoiled the building, because the complete sense of the building is that it should be complete for it to make sense as to what it was all about.
Morning.
Good morning.
What's your name?
My name's Glenn Noon.
And were you born in the village?
Yes.
Whereabouts?
Well, I wasn't. I was brought up. I wasn't born. I was born in the town centre, but I was brought up in Springfield Cottages in Attleborough Road.
And did you go to school in the village?
Yes, I went to Park Avenue School.
Did you work in Nuneaton?
Yes, I worked for 20 odd years at the Sterling Metals.
Oh yeah. And what are your fondest memories of the village?
Oh, there's not a lot really. I just looked at some of the photographs in there of the new inn with Wash Harris standing outside. As a child, he used to frighten us. We hadn't done anything wrong, but we always, when we was walking up his side of the road, when we came to the new inn, we'd always cross over and walk by the Albion buildings and cross back over by Monty's garage. Yes. My granddad lived in up Kem Street, Thomas Thorpe. He was one of the first people in Nuneaton to drive a car. He was the chauffeur for the Knox family at the Chase, who then lived at the Chase. Yes, many happy hours in Attleborough Road. The Coggins, the cake shop, we used to play in the field adjacent to that, and they had a conker tree at the bottom of the garden. I've spent many hours swinging over, doing my Tarzan act, crossing the brook there, yes. And we used to go and play on Attleborough Wreck when they had a paddling pool there, and I don't think as many people can remember the paddling pool, but I can never remember it having water. I think there was a stream that came from the cemetery, and it was probably 18 inches deep, and we used to play cricket in there. Now it's all filled in, and there's the playground area. And of course we could walk over the fields from there, the Laundry Bridge, over to there, and then go to the Lady Bridge. Well, when you went over the Laundry Bridge and you turn left, the bridge is still there. I don't know what was called the Lady Bridge, but it was a narrow bridge, and it had a bar across. I think it was to stop the sheep or the cattle crossing, but we always knew it as the Lady Bridge, because you could walk down there then and come out in by the Crystal Palace there. I remember up there, it used to be Ammons Farm up there. I mean, of course, it was all fields in my younger days. And of course, we had the Pingles with the paddling pool down there, and we used to dam it up as kids and to get the water to come up the steps. But of course, the outbreak of poliomyelitis, it stopped us, and everybody stopped there. But we used to go down there. We used to have the fair and stand around there chatting the young girls up and thing or another. And on a Sunday, we always used to go into the park. At that time, it was all fenced in, and they had a park warden at night that used to chuck everybody out at 9 o'clock, unless you knew there was a hole in the fence where you could get in and out. But yes, that's many happy hours. Yes.
And then did you leave the village when you got married? Or?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
So I moved over to Nicholas Park when I got married. Yeah. But,
Memories of the local pubs?
Well, I mean, we never went in the new inn as an underage drinker. We used to go to the youth club at Attleborough Liberal Club, upstairs there, and then we'd nip out and call in the bull and have a pint of shandy. But we never went in the Fox because that was, you know, a little small, and that's where the old boys went in. And I can always remember going into the Bull, and in one of those little alcoves there, we used to be my uncle there and two others, and you couldn't see for smoke. They were there, they were smoking the pipes, smoking everywhere, yeah.
But my granddad had a horse and milk float that delivered the milk. They used to go up the laundry bridge. We used to deliver. He used to deliver to all the small holdings, Warmingtons and all those along there. And I was with one of my cousins, and I think my brother were delivering the milk that day. And I was a girl and I wasn't allowed to do this. But can I come on the milk float with you? Yes. So we went up the milk up there, got to the end to Warmington's, delivered all the milk that was needed to be delivered, and it was scooped out of into a jug.
Oh,
then.
right, yeah. Proper
And yeah, turn the milk float round with the horse. And I said to my cousin, "Can I have a go at steering the horse, please?" So he said, "Of course you can." So I stood there, picked up the reins, and just shouted, "Get him!" And the horse reared up, and the float tipped up. And the milk flagon fell off the back.
So you never done that job again then?
I didn't go back all day. I just walked the fields, the Lady Bridge, and just walked. I was scared stiff to go back. And I went back into Grandma's house. Nobody spoke. Nobody said, never mind. They just, it was as if it hadn't happened. Oh, I was ill that day. I was about that big. You know.
I remember all the farm buildings up there. It used to be lovely. We used to walk along the old river, all the way up to the Lady Bridge, you know, from the 3 tunnels.
Yeah.
It used to be lovely. You can't get nowhere.
What will the next generation talk about? Because there's nothing like that, is there?
No?
No, it's all growing. It's all buildings. I mean, the industrial estate, that were all fields.
Yeah.
You know.
Not only that, I mean, everybody knew
Kimberley used to
everybody
stand in the farm.
streets.
We'd go on the
Well,
big
you don't
tree.
even know your next
You've got
door
to run over
neighbours.
there.
No.
And we always used to be frightened of Kimberley. Kimberley's watching you. Run! They were good days.
Well, that's Joseph Bonham. He died before I was born, but he lived in Hall End in the 20s and 30s. No, in the 30s, 1930s. He married his second wife in this church, in Attleborough Church. Right, that's my parents. That's Joseph Henry Bonham. They got married on my mother's 18th birthday here at this church on the 27th of December 1930. That's their wedding photo. Look at the hats. That's 1934. They were living in Hall End. That's Mum when she was 16. Bless her cotton socks. That's my oldest brother who now lives at the Lynch. And that's my sister, my older sister. I don't know if this... Oh, that's my brother now who lives at the Lynch. That's him when he was doing national service. That's my cousin. That's Frances Bonham. She married